Hey, everybody. Let's talk about another strategy for election violence prevention. Remembering, again, this is one of many strategies. So if it's a thing that feels like something you're prepared to work on, jump in and do it. And if it doesn't, keep watching and we will find other strategies. This particular strategy is about peace messaging. We've talked about before the fact that when election violence has happened fairly recently, people start to expect that there's going to be more election violence. It's a weird thing that kind of happens in our brains. Like we start to redefine the definition of normal, and that makes our brains feel better, but it's not very good for our society because the more we become desensitized to the idea that there's going to be violence, the more there is going to be violence within the context because people start to think it's socially acceptable. And so we have to make it really clear, nonviolence is not normal. Peaceful action, nonviolent protest, vehement, strong feelings, like all of this is normal. All of this is part of being in a democracy together. But at the point that we are literally becoming violent, that is not normal. That's not part of the definition of how we do elections in this country. So peace messaging is all about making that really, really clear to people. And here's an interesting aspect that we know about peace messaging from international research. What we know is that local peace messaging campaigns are way more effective than regional campaigns or national campaigns. And that's because regardless of whether I live in I don't know, suburban Texas, or if I'm living in the countryside in Indiana, or if I'm living in Harlem, the messages that work in those different places are not going to be the same. I'm going to talk a different way to people in Texas than I do in Indiana, than I do in New York. And that has nothing to do with level of intelligence. What it has to do with is culture and the way that people talk to each other. The other thing that you can do in a peace messaging campaign is identify who the local influences are. It just so happens that I have actually lived in each of the three places that I just named. And when I was living in suburban Texas, the people that I would have started out talking to is the local football coach, the high school football coach, because he actually has influence over an enormous number of people in suburban towns in Texas. If I'm in rural Indiana, I want to start by talking to all the pastors because a lot of people there go to church. And so that's where the conversation is. And the influence in Harlem, believe it or not, it generally belongs to the guys who sit on the corner and play dominoes. They are the elders of the community, and so they have the influence. These are some of the people that I might start to talk to. And then also, what's the local medium? Is it a radio station that everybody listens to? Is it a cafe where you're going to put up graffiti or posters? What is the medium for the peace messaging campaign? How are you going to get the word out about, listen, we are not going to be violent in the context of this election. So that's today's strategy, peace messaging. And peace messaging is most effective when it's done locally and you're thinking about the local people, the local influencers, and the best local media.